Hey everybody, it's Rob the Backyard Gardener, and it's time to see if we have anything to harvest from my potatoes in containers, small containers, that I started indoors. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Like I said in the intro, it's time to go ahead and do that 7 small pot fingerling red potato harvest. You'll recall I had a video where I went ahead and started some chitted, overwintered chitted red potatoes, not ones that are seed potatoes. These are ones from store-bought that went bad, just to see if I could start them indoors. I was planning on keeping them indoors, but it became a bear keeping up with the watering cycle, and as they got taller, there was really no space to put them. So I ended up bringing them outside after the first 30 days. Well, it's been 102 days since we actually put them in the soil or in the pots, and we're a little bit past the harvest time, so I figured it's time to harvest them. Now, that being said, this was an experiment. I'm thoroughly expecting not much from the harvest, and based on what I kind of dug around on the top of the pots, it didn't look that promising. That being said, it is an experiment, so I figured let's go ahead and see how we did. I also want to make mention that we've had a lot of rain here in Texas, so aside from bringing the pots under the patio, I couldn't keep the water levels low in the pots. Potatoes don't like sitting in saturated soil. So the last week when I was gonna harvest them last weekend, I noticed that the pots were still really drenched. So I put them on the patio, left them in the sun, no water at all for about 10 days. So hoping that A, the soil is decent in the pots, and B, we don't have any rotten potatoes. All right, let me get the camera flipped around. I'll show you the pots really quick, then we'll get it set up for the harvest. Fingers crossed. So here are the pots. Like I said, June 1st marked 90 days. So we're right around a little over 100 days on these bad boys. Typically you want 90 to 120 days, like I said. And most of them have died down pretty good. These were the first to go, and I stopped watering them the last couple of weeks to let them die, but this one's still holding on, so maybe it's producing a little bit more potatoes down there. Again, this was an experiment. Little red potatoes in little pots, indoors for their first month, outdoors after the 30th day, just so they can get a little more sunlight. If you recall, and I don't recall right now, but if you watched the last video, some of the pots, the first pots I did, which I think were these ones, we only put 1 or 2 potatoes at most in these. And then the rest of the potatoes, I think I put 2 or 3 of the less healthier ones in these, which is probably why they died off first. But I will say, through 90 days, we did have some plant life still left. These barely were holding on. And then these guys died in the last week and a half since I stopped watering completely. All right, I'm gonna set the tripod up. We'll get these dumped in the wheelbarrow, see if we got any potatoes out of this, or if we got a good harvest. You never know. Like I said, it was just an experiment. So let's see how we did. Well, as you can see, it wasn't that successful. We did get some potatoes. I'm gonna go ahead and sort through the rest of this dirt. We'll get these quickly rinsed off. I'll probably film that. We'll get a weight on them and we'll go from there. All right, let's weigh up this monster harvest. All right, we got the food scale on here. Ambitiously, I set it to pounds and ounces. And right now we're teared out with the bucket. So we're just gonna grab these and start throwing them in and see if we can even get a pound out of it. It'll be pretty tight. Where are we at right now? 5 ounces. What are your guys' guesses? Put down below in the comments if you haven't seen the weight at the end. And we do have a little bit of water weight, so that's gonna help me just a smidge. Where are we at now? 14? Looks like we might actually hit over a pound. 1 pound, 5.6 ounces. And typically when I grow container grown fingerling red potatoes, I usually get right around about 1/2 to 2/3 pound per container. So with 7 containers, we should have gotten 3.5 pounds. But that being said, those are smaller pots or containers than I usually use. They're about 1/3 of the size. So had we used bigger containers, had we not started them indoors, and had we amended the soil, we probably could have done better. But at the end of the day, for an experiment, 1 pound, 5.6 ounces, yeah, it's not gonna break any records, but we definitely have at least 1 meal for 2 in this bowl, and I'll take it. The potatoes we used were pretty much on their last leg. They were unusable, they were wrinkly, they'd been chitted for a while. We had kept them over the winter, so basically they were discards, if you will, and we turned the discards into at least 1 meal for 2, or at least a side dish for 2 for tonight. Can't get mad at that. Well, that's gonna do it for today's potato harvest. I know it was nothing spectacular. I do have some russet potatoes started in a much bigger container. I think it's like an 8 or a 10-gallon pot. We'll have to see how those do. I started those about 45 days after these, so we still got about 30 to 45 days until I can harvest those ones. They're looking good. I'll show a quick clip of those here at the very end of the video just so you can see how it's coming along. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this pretty sad potato harvest, but still a lot of fun. And like I said in the last clip, Shalani and I can have a quick meal with them tonight, and there's nothing like fresh harvested potatoes, especially red fingerling potatoes. All right, I'm chit-chatting now. If you guys enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate that thumbs up. And as always, everyone, happy gardening, and thanks for watching. So this is the russet potatoes in this bigger container, and these have been out here for about 60 days or so, maybe a little bit more than that, and they already had flowers on a lot of them that died off. So we know once they have flowers, it takes about 30 days for them to go ahead and have the tubers ready to be harvested. So we probably still got about 20 to 30 days at the very minimum. I'm probably gonna give it 30 to 45 days just to see if we get some potatoes. I'm tempted to dig around in there, but I'm not going to. Instead, we're gonna wait.